Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Abid. I will be answering the first question. The question is, discuss the misappropriation of assets by senior management as highlighted in this case. Assets misappropriation fraud involve third party or employees abusing their position to steal from an organization through fraudulent activity. Misappropriation happened by manipulating account by the CEO and CFO of the company. So based on the case, Johan find the document shows the expenses claimed by the CEO amounted 22,600 ringgit in February and 31,300 in March, which is totally different from executive audit report for the total amount of 3,000 in February and 4,200 ringgit in March. Also, Anna had found that the CEO had used the money claimed to be his travel expenses for the wedding of his son and CFO's cousins. The cost of wedding celebration was 53,000, 9,000. The cost of the wedding celebration was 53,900 ringgit, which coincides with the total amount of the CEO's travel expense claim. In conclusion, the audited report had been manipulated and the CEO and CFO of the company had used the money for their own self-interest. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is AUFI and I will be answering the second question of the case regarding Lightning Logistics. The question goes, what are the weaknesses of the vendor selection process and how do we address these weaknesses? So after reading the case, I can see that there are a couple of weaknesses that can be seen from the company. The first thing is the lack of internal control. The vendor selection process is handled by the Chief Financial Officer of Lightning Logistics. Now this poses a problem because he is already one of the top management of the company and he is the one handling it alone. So this can give rise to internal conflict and will not be in the best interest of the company when he is making the decision. And secondly, the lack of standard of procedures in handling the selection process. This is because since the CFO is the only one making the decisions, he has actually no sense of base of what he is choosing the vendor, meaning that he chose the vendor out of his own judgment and interest, and it could be questioned that is he really doing it for the company, or is there any other interest that he has in choosing the vendor? The new chief audit committee, after doing further research, shows that the CFO is one of the partners of the vendor that they are currently having a relationship with, and this is the reason why the CFO chose that vendor in the first place. So this is not only we can consider it a loss for the company because they have to pay more than what they could get with other vendors. This also is not beneficial for the company. So to address this weakness is by changing the person handling the vendor selection process. Now usually companies have what you call a procurement department, where they will be the one in charge in handling the selection process of the vendors. Now this will probably solve most of the problems of the vendor selection process because they are supervised, meaning that there is always someone above them that will look at it and see if there is anything wrong with the selection process, meaning there is no room for for conflict of interest of the managers and so on, because they need a supervisor to to be approving their decisions. Now, okay, so that is one way. The other way is to have a standard operating procedures on how to of the vendor selection process, meaning that when choosing a vendor, they need to have a base, meaning that it's based on a low price or the quality of goods, so that the person in charge of making the decision will have a guideline of which vendor to choose from. The last one is to monitor and supervise the vendor selection process. This could be done by the auditors or also any other departments, which can help in improving the internal control of the vendor selection process. So that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum. My name is MOHAMED bin SADOM. Okay, I will proceed with the question 3 of case study 4, which is lightning logistics. Okay, first of all, the company need have a proper record accounting data, which mean lightning logistics must keeping the accounting record in a good way. The purpose is to make easier to them find and make verification upon the accounting record. Also, it's easy for audit purpose in the future. So the document that the company need to keep in safe is, for example, receipt, invoice and any approval note, so that when they keep this document in a secure way, it easy to them to access the document anytime upon request. The second point is reporting to audit committee. So any transaction must report to audit committee. So the any expenses incurred in the business by the CEO or executive staff and also employees should report to audit committee time to time. So it can be monthly basis or weekly basis. It depend on the company policy or management policy itself. So the process will provide the greater transparency as the business expense be incurred wisely. So any process or transaction incurred in the company must comply with the policy and procedure appropriately. Last but not least, I can say that the company need to enforce with the policy and procedure. In other words, is must have an appropriate approval before any transaction be made or claim expenses be made. So the policy and procedure is important because to ensure that the business make appropriate approval follow the standard. And also the policy and procedure is important because it will lead the company to make a proper transaction and will not incur any issue in the future. Usually, basically, the CEO will approve the business expenses from a lower level staff. And for CEO, if the CEO want to claim any expenses made by them, the audit committee need to approve the expenses claimed by the CEO. Okay, that's all for me. The next question will proceed with the next member. Assalamualaikum.
Hello everyone, my name is FATHI NUQMAN. I will present it to you case study number 4, which is lightning logistics, but I will present it to you only for the question 4 and question 5. Okay, I will start it with the question 4 first. The question is, discuss whether it's appropriate for Anna to use social media to gather information. Okay, in this case, Anna used social media such as Google and Facebook to gather information regarding about the tempat packaging Sdn Bhd and the chief financial officer of Lightning Logistics. Okay, the social media can be used to gain for risk control and audit, network with other auditors for advice on issue and establish knowledge feeds for auditors. As we can see, there is no indicator for auditors that social media can be evidence. it only used as gather and seek information only. So Hannah can use the social media to get information, but she cannot rely and believe 100% on information for the social media as the evidence. She can use the social media. She cannot use the social media as evidence that are reliable, relevant, and useful for the fraud. It is because of the information may contain manipulation of words, or we might create a false judgment from the social media information that we rely on. Okay, that's all for question 4. Okay, for the second one, I will discuss about the question 5. The question 5 is the question are discuss on the approach to the investigation in order to approve fraud. We need to refer from the case study above about the lightning logistic, how to approach what kind of approach of investigation in order to prove that there is a fraud in the lightning logistic company. Okay, in this case there is a transaction that ought to the company, which is the travel expenses claimed by the CEO of Lightning Logistics, and the internal control has been overridden by the CFO or Chief Financial Officer, has made manipulation with one of the vendors of receiving materials, which is Tempat Packaging Sdn Bhd. So, to approach the investigation to prove the fraud, we can use first we can use an activity in investigation such as interview and integration. Okay. I will explain what is interview and integration. In interview, it can conducted at the beginning of the investigation, which to obtain relevant facts and issue regarding to the incident. For integration, it is conduct and suspect the perpetrators to elicit voluntary confession, which is listen carefully to the response given and observe the body language. Okay, as you can see, in the case above, the auditor has used interview approach to the CFO, and also make integration to the CFO that the fraud, the money that the CEO claimed in the lightning logistic is something odd in the transaction, but CFO deny it. So that's why we can see that activities in investigation is one of kind of the approach that we can use to prove that it's a fraud. Okay. Then we can use fraud investigation techniques. In fraud investigation techniques, by using type of evidence and understand the element of the fraud in investigation. In types of, there's I explain what is the type of evidence and understand the element of fraud in investigation. In type of evidence, auditor must have testimonial evidence, document evidence, physical evidence, and personal observation to indicate there is either a fraud or not. Next, by using the understand the element of fraud and investigation, the auditor must understand either the fraud is theft, concealment, and conversion. Theft is making attempt to catch the perpetrator in commission of the act. For concealment, is focused on the variety of sources used to hide fraudulent activities. Last is conversion. It's a difficult task of uncovering the modus operating. Based on the case above, because as I can see, that is the CFO of Lightning Logistic use concealment because they use a variety source to hide the fraudulent activities that they have bought, such as they have made, such as the CFO, if the part
CFO son has married with CFO family has married with the tepat CEO family. So they have combined their relationship by marriage. So you can see that they for that you can they have made fraud in the activities. Okay, so with this two approach, which is activity investigation and investigation techniques, so that we can approve either there is a fraud or not. So it's if we use both of the activity investigation and investigation techniques, we can prove that Lightning Logistic has made a fraudulent in claiming their expenses and internal control problem. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you very much. Bye bye.